Well, I am with the nonprofit of the year for the Shelton-Mason County Chamber of Commerce. It's the Great Bend Center for Music. Matt Melendez. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. And you're not with the entire nonprofit. You're just with, the lowliest person.
Sure, the one who would accept my email on this one, I suppose. It is a great organization. We've talked for years now about it and the work that you've done locally. Let's start with that, the impact that you have made here in Mason County, and then we'll kind of expand from there because I'm not sure if a lot of folks realize your reach these days when it
Oh,
comes
thanks.
to
Yeah.
teaching music.
Yeah. So, well, particularly some recent developments we're really proud of in terms of local impact. What you're talking about, our flagship early learning program serves hundreds of kids in 47, 48 states. Last time I counted, and that was like a year ago. So we might have hit all 50 by now.
Amazing.
And somewhere around 15, 16 other countries, which is really, really great. And we're really focused right now on positioning that that's an entirely online program, which again, people are kind of surprised at because it's serving 2 and 3-year-olds. But they're magic on Zoom and it's intense. It's 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day. And they show up ready. And my standard line is, I wish my adult choir read music like my 2 and 3-year-olds, because
Sure.
it's conservatory-based training where we don't slow it down, and they are just absorption machines when it comes to learning the content and sight reading music and the ear training and everything. So that's really great. And right now we're focused heavily on a site that we can find locally to do in-person classes. The program was originally designed to serve kids who didn't have access to other high-quality early learning, and we're a perfect community example of that. But because we launched during the pandemic, we launched virtually. But now we're kind of returning to the original vision and really looking at how we can both partner and how we can establish our own physical sites to provide that curriculum for local kids and really kind of improve our kindergarten readiness here in the county. So that's one set of impact. In the last year, there are two things that are new that we're really proud of. One is Lip Sync Battle, which was
Right?
an experiment this last year, and I was really hopeful about it. It turned out so much better than we had anticipated. I mean, the teams were so well prepared. The least prepared team was the choir team, to be perfectly honest, was the Great Bend team. Um, it was just magical. And the feedback we got through all of it was the people who were there were like, oh, we didn't completely understand this. Okay, we're coming with our game face on next year.
Right.
And we've heard that for whatever. So like I literally had a meeting with the board and with the committee that puts it together yesterday to set the date for this year, which is going to be next fall. So we can start working on that now. But what I really loved about that was, for years I've thought, like, one, like for us in our wonderful little community, the galas and the fundraisers we put on, it's the same 150, 200 people at all of them. And it's another sit down dinner and a live auction. And they're great and they work, but we've been really trying to figure out a way where, okay, if we're going to gather the same group of people and asking for money in one place, how might we add value? How might we diversify like what's happening in the community? And so what I love about the format is that it's other nonprofit teams that are competing. They're also raising money independently. And so it's an event that does help us financially, but also makes that kind of event accessible for smaller nonprofits that don't have the resources to throw that kind of event. Like Connection Street Theater is a really great example. And they killed it. They just killed it. They had so much fun with it. It was really inspiring. So that we put something out there that's not just supporting us, but really supporting other smaller nonprofits in the community and creating more community. And to be perfectly honest and fair and give credit where credit is due, really build on the amazing work that Pastors Doug and Brenda are doing at Faith Lutheran to really pull together the service community here. Was a really terrific experience and something we're excited about building. So that's the first area of development in terms of local impact we're really excited about right now.
Is that
And the
something
other,
that the board kind of asked you to look more into? Because doing music on its own 5 days a week, that's a real heavy lift. But to add that in to help other nonprofits, is that, because I know you've been in the community for 20 years, your doctorate is in rural music and education and things like that. So, I mean, it's kind of a fit that way, but that's a whole nother avenue that you've
Yeah,
had to kind
no,
of take up.
it wasn't again. It was my. I'll admit, it was kind of my vision. And but again, there's no event in the community, and my board was wonderfully supportive. We started talking about this about 3 years ago, and it was like there's no event in the community that really showcases not just the individual nonprofits and particularly the full spectrum of us. Oysterfest, I guess, kind of comes close, but it's less of a showcase and more whatever. But where we all intersect and touch each other and how so many of us collaborate so well together, there's nothing that showcases that. That's some of my favorite things about this community. And so I had just had this in the back of my mind, like, if we have to do this, because events are hard. And I think they're easier for Great Bend than for most nonprofits because we put on concerts all the time. So events are kind of our thing, but they're still really difficult and they're expensive and they're challenging. We were really focused on like, I don't want to do another $125, $150, or $225 a ticket sit down dinner. That means it's not accessible to the people I want it to be accessible to. And, I'm proud of our story, but I don't know. I kind of feel like our story is more powerful when we can showcase it within the context of how we're kind of trying to lift up the community in these specific other ways and how we're trying to use music as a tool, which is always the challenge, right? People are always looking at us like, oh, you're an arts organization. It's like, kind of, yes, not going to say that. Like we do win awards and get really cool opportunities to make high art. That's great. But our focus is always like, how are we enhancing the community? How are we building the community? And again, my doctoral research is as much sociological as it is musicological, because that's where the fun is for me. And my passion is that, again, I love this community. I love investing in this community. And again, there's something really magical when people make music together. It's just, yeah. But it didn't come from the board. That said, the board has been beyond supportive and excited about it. And again, we went into it this last year not knowing how it was going to come together. But we all left really thrilled and excited, like really like, wow, that was more fun than I thought it was going to be. That was crazy fun.
And you've been able to really bring, like you're saying, the community in across the county with your different choirs, your beer choirs for those over 21, or your root beer choirs for those who are under. And I have been at all three types. I remember we did one up at the Salmon Center. You did one kind of during Christmas Town this year, and then you've been at different breweries doing these. So that also kind of lends itself to getting people comfortable with performing, and then, hey, well, now the next step is to be part of our lip sync battle.
Yeah, or recruit for the choir.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you again, like the first thing I think about though is that I know what's happening when we pull those people together and when we sing in a group. I know what's happening physiologically, neurologically, and hormonally for folks. And that, like, particularly in this moment where we're so divided as a country and as a community, is what we need more of. It boosts that no matter how engaged you are, being in that beer choir environment, and even if you're just singing one song, your oxytocin levels go up, which is the bonding hormone. So we see each other with kinder eyes. Your cortisol levels drop. So the anxiety hormone goes down. Your immune system is enhanced, and that effect lasts for 3 or 4 days. Those are worth doing all by themselves. Not to mention the fact that, again, we need those events for visibility in the community because so much of our stuff is online or limited to a classroom. Without those things, we kind of are invisible other than we're doing concerts. And that's something we're really struggling with right now as an organization.
You have got on your website, and I'll put the links to this to greatbendmusic.org, a great collection of what you do have coming up for this season. A lot of times, these types of performances are focused a lot of times around the holiday season, and so that's kind of your big push. But you have got things all throughout this whole year
Yeah,
coming
this is
up.
our first post-pandemic return to a full season, and it's going really well. Yeah, we did 7 concerts this season. We've got 3 left. In fact, we're just about to start promoting this week. We sold season tickets this year for all
Hmm.
7, and that went really, really well. And so we've just put together a package for the final 3 concerts, $50 for all 3 concerts. But it's been a really great blend of not just our normal choral, orchestral, big masterpieces, but some really charming, intimate chamber programs that I'm really, really proud of. And we've got the 2 that I'm most excited about actually coming up. In February, it's Wade in the Water on February 15th, which is kind of our contribution to Black History Month, because it's featuring William Grant Still and Florence Price, who are the 2 first major Black American composers, and they are not done enough. Florence Price was only just rediscovered. All of her stuff was lost until about 15 years ago, and her stuff, it's the majority of her stuff we're featuring. It's so what she masters. Like, we have 2 female composers we're trying to really lift up in these final 3 concerts. She and Amy Beach, who was the first major female composer on the American landscape in the late 19th century, early 20th century. And what they both mastered that they don't get enough credit for is not just like the trend at the late 19th century, early 20th century is like, what is the American sound? We're living in Europe's shadow. What is our sound? Like, we know what the French sound is, and we know, what these other regional, we know what a Russian sound is. We know what a German sound is. What's the American sound? And it was the big focal point for composers in this country, from Dvorak asking that question in the 1880s through about the 1930s and 40s and Aaron Copland and Leonard Bernstein. Like, what is it? And we know it when we hear it. Like Aaron Copland, you just can't get more American. You know it when you hear it, but it's really hard to verbalize. Well, Amy Beach and Florence Price really, and William Grant Still, really did what all these composers were trying to do, which was to master traditional Western European compositional and harmony techniques, but to imbue it with their own flavor. So where Florence Price and William Grant Still come into play, it's like classic symphonic or string quartet counterpoint studies, but using blues harmonies and jazz harmonies and African American spirituals as the foundation. So really blending those without losing one bit of the European craftsmanship, and doing it in ways that blew Europeans away, which they don't get credit for at all. And then Amy Beach doing the same thing. Like, she's kind of like, oh, I hear what Brahms is doing. I hear whatever. I can do that. And her story is amazing in terms of just this, she was a prodigy. The men in her life, starting with her father and then her eventual husband, did not approve of her musical activities at all. So she was not allowed to take lessons. She was not allowed to study. She was determined, though, and so even as a 10, 11, 12-year-old, was finding and ordering scores that she could study, and that's how she taught herself composition. She ended up becoming one of the best concert pianists of her generation. She was not allowed to perform. But then her husband died when she was still relatively young, and suddenly she was free, and she built this amazing performance career, both on the continent and here in America, both as a composition and as a soloist, as a pianist, and dedicated her work to opening doors for other women. And her stuff is so beautiful. It's like, and like normally you talk about composers in this way, and it's not the most listenable stuff. It's high concept, and it's, or whatever. This stuff is ear candy, and like, I don't understand like why we're not listening to it all the time. These folks were just so sidelined because of the populations they happen to come from, that I don't think they got the proper spotlight when they deserved it. So I'm really glad they're having their moment now, because the stuff is so beautiful. And again, it's ear candy. It's just like, you just want to wallow in it. It's great. Particularly, I mean, I don't know which of the 3 of them I can brag about more. And they did get a lot of, particularly William Grant Still, he got a lot of validation in his life. He was the first African American, I mean, he did it all. He composed operas, symphonies, he conducted, he performed, like, he did it all. There wasn't an area of classical music in America that he didn't conquer. And his symphonies are still regularly programmed. But again, we don't really talk about the impacts. And they were doing this at a time like, when the Harlem Renaissance was happening, and that those conversations between the Langston Hughes and those poets or whatever, they were all, and it's all of a piece, and it's all so American. It's, I mean, our superpower, and I think it's most visible in the music of America, including and especially the pop music, is fusion. In fact, I think the only folks that are in the last 2 centuries that have done fusion at least at the level or better, and perhaps better than we have, is K-pop now, and that's relatively new because like you can hear anything in any K-pop piece, hip hop, jazz, like it's all there. It's amazing, disco. But it just makes me really proud. This music, like this is, we should be so proud of this as a country and as a nation. Like, look what we did. Like, there was this proud European tradition, Western tradition, and we were like, yeah, we're going to use that as a springboard, but let's bring in some African traditions. Let's bring in some Latin American traditions. Let's bring in whatever and see how that spices things up. And that ends up becoming the primary driver of American music, both classical and pop, for at least the last century plus a little bit more. And again, we don't talk about it enough, and I think that's just so cool to unpack.
February 15th is Wade in the Water at Shelton Presbyterian, and then on the 26th of April is Yankee Romantics, and then you are saying that the final one, you're wrapping up the season in June, on June 5th. I Was a Stranger is the final there at Faith Lutheran and First United Methodist in Olympia. People can get those tickets. Again, a great opportunity for a 3-pack here as we move
and that
through
finale, is a revival of our piece Borders, which is the piece that we commissioned for our Carnegie Hall debut, and that we've won all these awards for, including a nice grant from the National Endowment for the Arts to create our first commercial recording. And so we're releasing that recording with that concert.
Very nice. I think a lot of folks, again, they see a great band out there. They're doing the choirs. They have the lip sync battles, but the reach that you've been able to put out there with the organization over these last 5-6 years now with COVID going on, the fact that you've been able to grow at such a rapid pace to include every state in the union plus countries outside of our borders to show people the benefit and the impact of music. I mean, that really kind of goes back to why you and the organization won the Nonprofit of the Year award this year. It's pretty fantastic to be again in Mason County. A lot of folks, feel as though it's a tough community perhaps at times, but there are these bright spotlights that really go worldwide, and this is
I
one
think
of them.
more and more. I think so. Yeah, and again, what you just summarized, I loved hearing that because a year ago, Department of Commerce reached out of the blue to give us a nice grant for us to be able to focus for 6 months on developing a strategic plan. And in the very first session, I and the board came up with this great line that's really become our focus, that we want to be known not just regionally, but nationally across North America we want Mason County to be known as the little place with the big music. And I kind of really love that. So, and the other big leap forward we've taken this year is finally, after 4 years of talking about it, planning about it, and putting together the curriculum, partnering with the school district to do this CTE pathway we've just launched this year in music and sound production. And that's been really great. It's been grueling. It's been a bit grueling. I'm teaching 3 periods at OBJH first thing in the morning.
Sure.
Or whatever. But it's been really exciting. And particularly right now, I'm really riding a high right now. I had a great day with the kids today. And it's really cool to see them mastering these sound composition techniques and these sound composition technologies that they could turn around. Like, I have 2 students right now I'm talking to Ty Ramos about, in terms of like, they are ready to take on like some video editing stuff right now. And I know we have small businesses at the chamber that need that for social media and for this and that. Like, let's turn that around. Let's make these kids available. They're 14, they're old enough. Let's do that. And that's what we're wanting to do, is create these sort of 21st century trade skills that we can make accessible to kids in the community.
Yeah, those pathways from middle school, junior high into the high school with their stagecraft and their beautiful performing arts center that well there, and it's just a great kind of not a continuation,
Continuum.
but a start of, and then
Yeah.
move into that is happening there. That's awesome. It's, we talk all the time. And so it's always good to kind of stop down a little bit and get some more information out for the public to hear more about what you're doing. It's a great organization. You got a
Thank
great
you.
board. You got a great group of folks that come and perform with you guys. Wade in the Waters, the next one on the 15th of February. Again, I'll put the links to this in the show notes if you're interested in learning more about just the Great Bend, getting involved with some of the musical classes that are available for the young students out there.
Yeah, we're working really hard to try to reinvigorate our youth chorale because we need them for that June concert. So
Very cool. Very
yeah.
cool. And then that kind of keeps them around and gets them to continue to sing. And
That's why we need to rebuild it, actually, because they've all graduated to the main choir.
Sure. Well, the call is out there for the local singers. I know there's many in the different church organizations. There's always great choirs there that they can pull kids out, I'm sure. So it'd be a wonderful connection and a wonderful add-on to their musical kind of repertoire, if you will. Matt Melendez, the Great Bend Center for Music, the 2025 Nonprofit of the Year from the Shelton-Mason County Chamber of Commerce. Good talking to you.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you for the interest and the time.